Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Planet X News, January 12th, 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, I finally finished this animated 28-day orbital model. And it's taken me some time because, well, look, I'm pretty damn good with computers, things of that nature. But one thing I am not is an animator. So it kind of took me a little while to figure out this programming and get a nice visualization of this 28-day orbit. I know I have a lot of people that argue with me about this back and forth, but the facts are the facts. And I'm going to show you guys that model. And remember, 3 days ago during my my short live stream that lasted almost 3 hours, I mentioned to all of you that we were going to start to see this uptick in seismic activity and to watch for the volcanic activity uptick. Well, within the last, I'd say probably less than the last 24 hours, there have been two major volcanic eruptions. One in Mexico and the most critical one in the Philippines. And that was the volcano that is named Taal. It is Taal if you want to look it up. And I have a lot of subscribers somehow, some way in the Philippines. And early this morning, they all started inboxing me. Some of them were sending me photographs on Twitter and so on and so forth. But we'll get into all of that. This orbital path model, this really turned out great. And I would say it's pretty damn near right on, but it's going to give all of you a better understanding of what we're seeing twice a month, how and why. It's also going to explain some of the impacts that we're seeing on our magnetosphere, the Earth's magnetic field, why it's being disrupted 2 times per month in, let's just say violent ways. And we'll get into all of that. Before I go and pull up that model, I wanted to show you guys the SDO website that we use to monitor the sun in different wavelengths of light. That finally came back up. I was showing you my other live stream the other day how that website was down. They did not update their security certificate, which is kind of odd, for a NASA website, And also the SEEDS website, where we look at the coronagraphs, that finally came back up first thing this morning. And there's some odd looking things that I'm going to be taking a look at. I'm waiting for a little bit more of their data to update. But I want to pull up just a few quick video clips here. So bear with me. I will share my screen. Just before I went on air, I was checking out the magnetosphere real quick, and I'll just let this go ahead and play. This is just one impact. We were waiting on that impact for the 11th, and it seems like a little bit of that impact started coming in. It also seems like it kind of slowed down. And if you remember, we were looking at that one predictor model, and I wasn't agreeing with it. It was putting the impacts well off into the 13th and 14th of the month, when the other model, the CME tracker, was dead on between the 11th and the 12th. So obviously it must have slowed down. It's either that or they manipulated the models, the current models, what we're seeing now. But you could see today on the magnetosphere, there was one pretty severe impact. I mean, that came right in, and that was in the morning. This is UTC time, If you look up at the top right up here, and you could see, I mean, this is just a repetitive piece of video clip here. It was just one impact. And it was relatively mild. It wasn't really anything to write home about. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the other one. This is the solar wind model. Same thing. You'll see the initial impact come in. It's just going to repeat itself a couple of times. And I mean, it wasn't anything, it's going to end the world. Now, I'm assuming based on those other models, the one from the ISWA website and also the NOAA website, I'm assuming that we will see greater impacts by tomorrow and throughout the 14th and 15th. We may see another increase in earthquake activity around the world, but that's already happening right now as we speak. A lot of magnitude 4s and 4.5s and low 5s scattered about the whole ring of fire. Speaking about the ring of fire, even though it's not in the ring of fire, the small island of Puerto Rico, my God, they got hit with a 5.9 yesterday. And same thing, happened at night. This one was on land, and it really, really, really shook people up. As of yesterday, they had 950 earthquakes in a matter of 10 days. So that's starting to look like the Ridgecrest scenario that happened last year in the summer out in California. And by the way, that area has not quieted down one bit. They're not having huge earthquakes, but they are having multitude of quakes and seismic activity on an hourly basis. So that would be kind of a hellish place to live. Puerto Rico, a lot of damage. Almost 1 million people without power. I don't know how many people they said were without water. And the situation is pretty bleak. A lot of damage. A lot of structural damage. And I don't know how long it's going to take to get them back up and running with the electric, but it is not looking good. This is the magnetopause. This was just a few hours ago. And this is showing you one fluctuation. Same impact I just got done showing you guys. This was one impact that just came out of nowhere. Now, when we normally see this, just one impact and then nothing, this normally shows me that that is the leading edge of what is about to come in. So, probably sometime after midnight or a little later, we may start to see these fluctuations intensify, and they're probably going to intensify for at least 48 to 72 hours. This may invoke more volcanic activity, and it's definitely going to cause more seismic activity. No doubt about it. The situation in the Philippines right now with that volcano Taal, wow, man, let me tell you. Woo! It has caused so much fright and fear in the people. Matter of fact, let's do this real quick. I'm going to go over here to Twitter, and we're going to pull that up. I'm going to show you guys, because this volcano was massive, man, when it went off. And for hours and hours and hours, it was causing this massive amount of electrical charges and lightning to spew up into the sky and down out of the sky. And the photographs are absolutely amazing, but the situation is damn critical. Here's one of them right here. This is a report from CNN. We'll just take a look at that photograph. Right down here, where you see that initial lightning charge, this is what's being conducted out of this volcano. I mean, it's insane. Dr. Albers has written many reports on these electrical charges coming out of volcanoes and connecting up into the sky. This is another one here. You can't even see the volcano. You could see the ash plume, which actually broke through the cloud cover and was photographed by high altitude planes that were actually above the cloud canopy, and this huge plume of smoke coming up through it. It kind of reminded me of an atomic explosion, but you could see the lightning. These pictures are all over Twitter. A lot of them, excuse me, a lot of them are all over Facebook also. Let's see here. Yeah, this was from the 11th. This is when it actually started spewing some ash, but it wasn't that bad. And then all of a sudden today, bingo, look at that. That is just an amazing photograph. But it spewed tons and tons and tons and tons of ash. Here is a great video right here. Look at that. Woo! I'm just setting up the live chat here. Have you guys ever seen anything like that before? That's crazy. We're going to go ahead and touch on a few more videos I think we have here. You know what? I think I actually shared a couple on my Twitter. Oh, here's the photograph I was telling you guys about, how the ash plume broke through the cloud canopy. Look at that. Tell me that doesn't look like the old-fashioned atomic testing that they did out in the deserts out there in Nevada. Incredible. Incredible. Some of the inbox messages that I got from subscribers in the Philippines, they were genuinely scared shitless. One individual told me that the initial sound of the blast sounded like a bomb went off. A massive explosion. And then this huge, gigantic orange plume came up. And then that plume started changing colors from this orangish color to gray, dark black. And it was really, really crazy. These are just some of the photographs. And you could see the lightning. Look, I don't know if this lightning's coming down out of the sky or it is coming up out of the volcano and connecting to something in the sky. I just don't know. But it's pretty pretty scary, pretty amazing also to see something like this. Because I guess back in the day, this type of occurrence was rare. But nowadays, nothing is rare anymore because all of this stuff is happening. In the Chicago Tribune, they wrote up an article, and this is a photograph from a distance right after that initial explosion, and you could see how huge that ash plume was. And that's probably from a good, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 miles away this photograph was taken. And you can see how all of that is spewing up into the sky, and it's literally forming a cloud. And we've talked about, having all of these volcanoes erupting like this continuously and spewing all of that matter up into the sky and up into very high altitudes 20, 30,000 feet. And then, you know, it ends up going even higher, getting up in our upper atmosphere. And all of the chemicals that are involved in volcanic eruptions, well, that just tends to screw our climate up. And if we have multiple volcanoes like this blowing off in different areas of the world like we did today, well, there you go, folks. I mean, there's one of your additives to climate change. Yeah. And that right there isn't man-made. But it was definitely pretty crazy. I kept my eye on it most of the day. But it pretty well amazed me. I snapped this photograph yesterday. Went to the grocery store. And yesterday here in Pittsburgh, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we topped out at a balmy 72 degrees when it should have been maybe no more than 30 degrees. Yeah, so it was quite blustery. And then later on we had this massive windstorm. There was massive amounts of damage done in the lower states. Alabama, they had tornadoes. There were a bunch of situations arising on Lake Michigan. Flooding on the Chicago side. The water and the waves from the lake were washing up and flooding the roadways. And then in Michigan, houses along the shoreline that were up on, looked to be maybe 40 to 60 feet up. Yeah. They were falling directly into the lake. So the situations around the world, you know, on a nice calm Sunday turned to shit really fast, and all before noon. And the thing about it is, folks, we talked about this 3 days ago during my short live stream of 2 hours and 45 minutes. And, you know, I told everybody, just, you know, sit back, give it 48 hours, maybe 72 hours, and we're going to see a lot of changes here on the globe. And sure enough, you know, it all happens once again. Not sitting here patting myself on the back, but when you do this kind of research and you investigate these matters fully, you put in 15, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you're keeping an eye on all of these things, and for many, many years, you tend to recognize the frequencies of these catastrophes, and we're going to see plenty more. They're not going to get better. Things are actually going to, yeah, man, they're going to actually get worse as time goes on. There's only so much stress that you could put the Earth under. Hate to use the terminology, but before it cracks. And that's already happening. But I wanted to show you guys real quick. Then we'll get into that orbital model. Take a quick look at the earthquake map. And as I was mentioned, things are starting to get very, very active. 1, 2, 3. And all of a sudden, just take a look at this. I mean, this is all within the last few hours. Boom, 4.2, 4.8, 4.7. 4.9, 4.6, 4.1, and then the people in Puerto Rico are just, this isn't all of the earthquakes. They've removed them because we wouldn't be able to see any of the names of the towns or cities. But just in a matter of last 50 minutes ago, magnitude 4, backed up by magnitude 3.5, boom, boom, boom. So they've been undergoing these earthquakes just nonstop. So I would think after today that definitely put them over 1,000 earthquakes in the past 10 days, possibly averaging about 100 earthquakes per day. I'm going to jump out of this and I'm going to show you guys this video. I produced this yesterday. I was going to do a live stream yesterday, but I decided to wait till today. And but I'm going to show you what the sun looked like. After the SDO came back up, I recorded this video, and I also used my technique where we're able to break through the sun's corona, get down to the upper surface of the sun, and see these coronal openings and see all of the heavily charged particles sparking and spewing out from the sun. And again, folks, this is all coming directly towards the Earth. This is Earth's view from the eyes of the Solar Dynamics Observatory spacecraft that is right between us and the sun. So this view is our view. And real quick, I'm going to stop it right here. Let me just back it up just a little bit. What I was noticing yesterday whenever I was recording all of this, it seemed like the sun was being split right in half with one connected coronal hole from the northern cap all the way to the southern cap. And you could see it right here, all the way down. As this video clip goes further, if you pay attention to that middle part of the sun, right from pole to pole, right down the middle in these further video clips, you'll start to see that open up. And all of that, remember, the Earth is about right here where my cursor is. So we're just a little bit below the sun's equator. But all of that starts to come out. And as it moves further and further and further away from the sun, it starts to expand wider and wider and wider. Unless it's moving at a very high speed, then it will stay compact for a while. But just check this out. These are just the normal views of the SDO, but we'll be getting into the special technique that I use to see further below the coronal surface. Something that I was paying very close attention to was in a solar minimum, we shouldn't have any sunspots. Identified in these last couple of days, bingo, 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 3 sunspots. And now you're starting to look at the technique that I use to see certain things on the SDO. And right here, you could see, I'm going to go ahead and wait for this, and I'm going to just stop it. Okay, you got 1 sunspot heavy activity area here, 1 here, and 1 here. 3 of them. One of them was responsible for that first coronal mass ejection. I think that we saw, what the hell was that, on the 5th? So much going on all over the world. Now see, right there. I'm going to stop that. This is what I was just referring to. That coronal hole literally just about split the sun right in half. And, you know, I mean, I've been watching these models for years and years and years and years, folks. I've seen a lot of weird situations. Very rarely do you see one coronal hole making its way from all the way at the northern cap or the north pole of the sun all the way down to the southern point of the axis. Now, all of those darker areas, those are the openings. Those are the coronal hole openings where the sun's outer atmosphere, as we call it, the corona, is gone. Now, here's my technique right here. You see all of those little white sparkles? Those are the heavily charged particles, electrons, protons, photons. They're all, boom, they're all streaming right out because the sun's upper atmosphere, the corona, is open. So it's like cloud cover. You know, the cloud cover separates and what comes out? The sun. So in this sense, the surface, the upper surface of the sun, the atmosphere is gone and everything is just spewing out right towards the Earth. Same thing here. This is going to give you a better view of the sun, literally that coronal hole splitting the sun almost in half. Very strange, rare. I've never seen that well defined for a long, long time. I think I've only seen it one time before in 2016, I think it was. But you could also see all three of these sunspots. And they're pretty active. They're not very big, but that doesn't mean anything. The smallest sunspot can produce a massive X-flare or coronal mass ejection, either one. The bright white illuminated areas here, those are the sunspots. And again, I developed this technique, I don't know, about a year ago. It's been about a year since I've been using it. And it allows us to see a lot more what's going on in the sun. Same thing here in this view. We're looking at all of those little white sparkles. Those are all of the particles releasing from the inner atmosphere or the inner part of the sun. And that's all flowing towards Earth, folks. It's not going to do any damage to the Earth. We're going to have some minor impacts on the magnetosphere, but that coronal mass ejection that occurred, that's what I worry about even more. This view here, everything that you see in white is wide open, facing the Earth, all of that spewing straight towards us. So that was on the 9th and 10th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. Today's the 12th. Usually takes a couple of days for that to get here. So just like I said, we're seeing the beginning phases of what's to come. And I think this is probably going to last, maybe 5 to 7 days. Now, we may be talking about this for about maybe a week. It all depends, Same thing here. You could see very, very well-defined sunspots, very well-defined particle release coming from the sun. And again, that's all heading directly towards the Earth. One more shot here. Same thing, just in a different color. And that little shifting thing that you see going on, that's just the camera recalibrating itself. The actual spacecraft itself does a calculated roll, and it rolls itself around to calibrate itself. It does it, I don't know, maybe once a week, once every 10 days. I don't know exactly how it's set. Sometimes it doesn't do it for quite a while. Sometimes it does it quite a bit. I think when it does it quite a bit is when it's being blasted by heavy amounts of solar wind. And I think it affects the electronics, so therefore they have to recalibrate it. Excuse me. But that was that. That was the situation with the sun. And I'm going to just pull this up real quick. This was the predictor model that we were looking at. And you could see right here, this is all, I'm going to stop it right there. This is all coming towards the Earth. So we are already on the 12th right here. And you can see halfway between the 12th and the 13th. That's about where we're at right now, even though this is in UTC time. And you can see it is right out in front of the Earth. Let's play it a little bit more. And then we could start to see the full impact. And then boom, we're dead in the middle of it between the 14th and the 15th. Now, again, plus or minus a day or a half a day is what we're going to be dealing with. But honestly, folks, at this point in time, The Earth is already starting to feel it. Let's see what happens over the course of this week coming up. So from today all the way through Friday, and I think Friday will be the 17th. So between the 17th and 18th, I'm hoping that we should be completely out of the woods. The earthquakes might slow down a bit, and the volcanic eruptions might slow down a bit, but then again, they may not. It all depends on how bad and how hard these impacts were. Now, let's get into this 28-day orbit. Okay, I'm going to pull this up, and here we go. This is just a thumbnail that I made. I made this, I don't know, about a month or so ago. Some of you have seen it, but yesterday I completed the animation. And the animation is pretty dead on. I'm going to go ahead and let it play, and then I'll explain it from there. So this would kind of be Earth's view. Now, in this animation, the only thing I couldn't get right was the rotation of the sun. Again, I am no animation expert, but what I was really keying in on was the eccentric and elliptical orbit of this object and its magnetic field and what it's doing to the sun and what the sun is doing to it. Okay? Now, you can see that this object drops way below the sun's ecliptic. I've mentioned that many, many times before. That's why we lose it. Okay? Once it comes down and it passes by the sun on its way down, that is at the end of the month. And then for the next week, going into the first week of every month, we don't see it. We don't see anything. No coronal mass ejections on the sun. Earthquake activity is at a low. Volcanic activity is at a low. And then, bingo, it makes its way up. Let me just back it up a little bit. And it makes its way to about right here at this point. That midpoint, that is one of the closest points when it's on its way back up. And that's where we see the coronal mass ejections. That's where we see the plasma being pulled from the sun. And if you pay attention to the red trail following behind the object, you can see that it's not always there. It is only there when it passes close by the sun. So it is either ejecting material, burn off, as it's passing by the sun, which could be gases, it could be actual material, and I want you guys to pay close attention to this. As that red tail whips by, remember, it's in a very fast orbit, and just the velocity is like a little spirograph. So when this object passes by on the way back up, it's literally whipping that tail of its magnetic field where? Straight towards the Earth, but only for a few days. And the Earth feels it. And the Earth feels it, and we can measure that by looking at the magnetopause and magnetosphere models. I've been saying for the last year, all of 2019, the solar wind, let me just start this back up. The solar wind has been so low. Where are all of these other impacts coming from? If the solar wind's so low, a particle release from the sun is minimal. Where are these impacts coming from? Well, here's your answer. You're looking at it right there. And I showed this to a few other people earlier today. They were like, oh, well, that could be Mercury. No, look, folks, don't even think about Mercury. Don't even talk about Mercury, because Mercury is 48 million miles away from the sun. 48 million miles. Mercury does not come into play in this equation at all. This object is very, very close to the sun. I could only estimate maybe at its closest point 500, 600,000 miles away. I don't know. We just don't have that data. We don't have that capability. It's just a guess. At its furthest point, as it goes down below the ecliptic, it may be 4 million miles, 5 million miles away. So as you see, Mercury never comes into play. Never. Even though Mercury's on a kind of a funny orbit like you see here, not as sharp, but Mercury's 48 million miles away, and this object's furthest point may be 4 or 5 million miles. So again, it never ever comes into play, and it never will. But you can see as that object passes by the sun, it is literally pooling plasma as the two magnetic fields interact, and on its way, it's literally just, whew, it's just like a big pinwheel. It's just pushing its magnetic field right at the Earth, but only temporarily. It's long enough to cause impacts and disturbances on our magnetic field here on Earth, combined with the interaction of the sun. So for people that, I don't know, that want to think that Nibiru's on its way in some 3,600-year orbit, well, you're going to have to throw that out the door at this point, because that's just not going to work. As far as Gil Broussard's hypothesis and his biblical prophecy and research, hey folks, it's just not going to work. You could mention another one, this ridiculous Dave Dobbs object, which is nothing more than illuminated contrails or chemtrails in the sky from airplanes. There is absolutely nothing like this in the clouds and in the sky and atmosphere here on Earth. That would be literally impossible. Impossible. So a lot of these other people, I don't know what the hell they're doing, but they're literally not telling you guys the truth. Either they are that ignorant that they don't know what they're doing, or they're just out there looking for some notoriety and something to do and maybe some YouTube views, but they are not involved in the deep science, and I would have to say they're really not interested in telling you the truth. Simple as that. I'm just about tired of getting the emails and the inbox messages and all of the questions, and I can't help it that you folks continue to watch their videos. But what you're looking at here, this is the first time that we actually have a pretty damn good view of how this object orbits the sun. It's that simple. That's it. And this orbit does not change. However, as the Earth rotates around the sun, we tend to get a little closer to this object, as I said, during the months of January, February, and March. During that 90-day period, we are at the point on the other side of the sun. And as you can see, this object, as it orbits, it's actually coming very close to the sun. And I'll stop it when I see that point, and I'll show you guys. Give me 1 second. As it loops back, right about there. So you see where it's at right now. Okay, that orbit is not going to change. Okay, it's very tight, it's very fast, and it only lasts for about 28 days. The Earth's orbit is what? 365 days. We are on a flat plane of an orbit around the sun somewhat. So as the Earth continues around like this, there's going to be 2 points. 2 points. You can see right here, and the Earth will be back here, but halfway down at the sun's equator. So as that object is making its loop, and we're in January, and this will last through February, and this will last through March, as the Earth makes its way in its orbit. So during that 90-day period, this object is still whipping around the sun, and the Earth is slowly moving on its plane. So that's why, over the last several years, that's why January, February, and March seem to be very, very, very active. It's because the Earth has a greater opportunity to be kind of whiplashed by this object's magnetic field. It's actually closer. And if you go and say, for instance, we'll move the marker to about right here, and this would be March, 90 days later. Well, let's just play it real quick. So you can see we're at another point in March where we're going to be pretty close. We're going to feel the intensity of this object's magnetic field as it goes by. So if we continue on and say we are in, May, June, July, that 90-day period. During that 90-day period, the Earth is out here. See, we're moving a little further away in our orbit based on the orbit of this object. Okay, now if this object was on a flat plane, that would be a little different. Actually, it would be a hell of a lot worse for the Earth, because then we would be getting pegged by its magnetic field constantly. Constantly, we would be feeling the effects of it. And I think the situation here on Earth would be a hell of a lot different and a hell of a lot worse. So as you can see, as the Earth progresses in its flat plane and its flat orbit, then we move into September, October, November, that other 90-day period. During that 90-day period, during that 90-day period, now the Earth is over here. And as you can see, if the Earth is over here in its orbit, you can see what's going to happen. You're going to see this lashing motion as it orbits the sun. So I'll play it for you, and you guys can just think about it, just visualize it. One thing I couldn't do is I couldn't put the Earth in there. The programming just, I don't know. I just couldn't do it. I was working on it, and I just couldn't get it into play. But this is what I wanted to do the most, is I wanted to show people what this orbit looks like and how we are affected by this object's magnetic field. And, folks, I mean, there's a high possibility that some of these meteors that we've been seeing so much of over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, there's a pretty big chance that some of these smaller meteor fragments, I don't know, maybe they could be coming from this object that are being whipped towards the Earth. Maybe this object's magnetic field is strong enough to change direction or pull in smaller meteors and push them towards the Earth. But all I know is since 2016, we have seen a substantial increase in NEOs, near Earth objects, meteors, asteroids. and something is pulling on them. There's no doubt about it. I mean, if they're coming from the asteroid belt, then something is pulling them inward. Something is changing their trajectory and bringing them in towards the Earth. But it looks like, to me, it would have to be something of a steering mechanism. Just not something that gives it a little bump. It would have to be something that literally bumps it but pulls it. And it would have to be something that is inward towards the center of our solar system, therefore pulling it where? Inward. Where's the Earth? Inward. So there you go. That's my theory on this, and I've been looking at these near-Earth objects now and studying them since 2016 extensively. I document every single one of them. When one of them is found and the warning signs go up, I go right to the JPL and I look up all of the information on that object. And 99% of the time, if you look at the observations of that object, it's only been, couple of days. Which means NASA only found that object a few days ago. And maybe they've only had a chance to observe it 8, 9, 10 times. So that's why they're unsure of what its trajectory is going to be. And then we see all of the unexplained fireballs. And no listing of them on the JPL's Near-Earth Object website. So what does that tell you? That tells you that something possibly perturbed its orbit and slungshot it right towards the Earth. So since 2016, we've seen a massive increase in these objects. Remember what I said years ago, folks, and I still say quite frequently, I don't fear this heavenly body orbiting our sun. I actually find it quite amusing because I know it's not going anywhere. Okay, the sun's gravity has it. It is going to be there forever and ever and ever. The Earth will be gone, and this damn thing will still be zipping around the sun. My biggest fear is this object perturbing the orbit of an asteroid or a very, very large meteor and it hitting the Earth. Okay? That would be our biggest fear. We don't have to fear this object as it will never impact the Earth. It's causing problems here. It will continue to cause problems. It will continue to create this stress on the Earth's magnetic field, volcanic activity, our weather, and also earthquake activity. So it's never going to hit the Earth, but because of its orbital path and its strong magnetic field, there is no other cause that I know of that is causing all of these near-Earth objects to just make their way straight into the inner solar system and shoot right past the Earth. The little tiny, teeny tiny little Earth in this big solar system, outer space, and these rocks, meteors, asteroids. Hey, I don't care if they're 500 feet wide. I don't care if they're 2 miles wide. Compared to the vastness of space around us, that's a pinhole. That's a grain of sand. But something's pulling them to the earth. And you guys, if I'm sure all of you watch things very carefully. I'm sure that all of you pretty much know when there is a fireball meteor sighting. I get notified immediately, no matter where they're at, anywhere in the world. I know about it pretty much within a few hours. And you can go to the Meteor Society's website, and if you ever see one, you could document it right there. They have a little map, and you could put a little a pin drop where you saw the meteor. You could leave a brief description of it. If you have photos, you could upload it. They document the fireballs very, very, very well. And then you have NASA's JPL website, but they just pretty much document the objects that they have found. And then there has been all of this research with these space probes that are going out to these very large asteroids like Bennu. And now all of a sudden they want to go take a sample of it. I'm not buying the sample thing. I think they're actually trying to use a technique to push that asteroid just a little bit and move it out of its path, its orbit, because that's all that you need to do. Based on their science, that's all that you need to do, but you need a few years. You can't do it in a few days unless you explode a nuclear warhead very close to the asteroid, enough to, with percussion, to move it off course. We might see that from Earth. You never know. But I don't think they ever want to do that. So I think they use the method of literally attaching this probe using some jet propulsion thrust, or even the sun's own light. Because light can propel objects through space. Hence the use of solar sails. Something you guys could look up in the near future. But that all takes time. A lot of time. In some of these situations, folks, we don't have all that time. That's what worries me. That's my biggest fear. Because you all know as well as I do, a very large meteor or asteroid impact on this planet, it's going to be a bad day. Really, really bad day. It's going to cause a lot of destruction, if not, over time wipe out humanity. But, I don't want to sound like a big Donnie Downer here, but those are the possibilities, and those are my theories, and it's just not my theories. There's a lot of other scientists out there that they feel the same way. And I think that's why the space program and the governments around the world, I think that's why they're in such a space race to get off of this planet and try to possibly, terraform another planet, go live in pods on some desolate planet like Mars. I don't know. Me, I'll take my chances right here on Earth. And if I go down with the ship, with Mother Earth, so be it, man. But I wouldn't like living on some dusty, dirty, filthy planet where I can't drive a car and go to Walmart. Yeah. Leave that to those space nerds. But anyways, folks, I thought that this would give everybody a really good a really good bird's eye view so you could have it in your mind of what this object looks like as it passes by. So real quick, I don't want to have another 2.5 to 3 hour live stream. If anybody has any comments, I got the live chat up. I'll pay attention to the comments. I'll try to answer a few questions. And then I'm going to get back to some NFL football playoffs tonight. And listen, guys, share this video. Share this video as much as possible. And, hopefully some of these other folks that are still wrapped up in this Nibiru junk, and definitely the people that are involved believing that Dave Dobbs object crap. Let's just get down to brass tacks here. Let's get down to the truth. Let's get down to the real evidence, not make-believe. This ain't fairy tales. This ain't Disneyland. This is real life. That is what gets me mad at these people, is because they're filling your heads with nonsense. And this isn't a nonsense situation. This is going to change mankind now and for the future. I feel that's a pretty big damn deal. Don't you? I mean, if you don't, then you don't belong in this rodeo. That's for sure. Who has some questions for me here? Anybody? Let me read this. Yeah, is it Mark Heitzman? Yeah, Mark, you're very correct. We are looking at these objects, definitely that larger object, giving off a lot of radiation. The radiation is being detected in the electron models. I've been talking about that now for probably the last 3 years. It has actually gotten worse, way worse. I think that is the reason why they chemtrail so hard. That is also the reason why the Earth is warming up, because they're trapping all of the heat. And God only knows what they're putting in that junk, man. Nanoparticles, nanobots, aluminum, strontium. I mean, whatever crap they're sticking in those airplanes and spraying the skies, it's pathetic. It's really pathetic. No wonder people are having such terrible breathing problems around the world. I have them, for God's sakes. I just came home from Walmart like 2 hours ago. The skies were pretty overcast today. But as soon as I go outside, if I'm outside for 20, 30 minutes or more, that's it. I can't breathe. It's terrible. When I'm in my house, not going outside, whatever, I'm fine. Go outside for 20 minutes or longer, that's it. Can't breathe. And I'm not the only one. I hear this from a lot of people. Kathy Houston is asking, what is the Dave Dobbs object? The Dave Dobbs object is a figment of Dave Dobbs' imagination. He uses photographs of illuminated chemtrails, and he tells people that they are, I guess, Nibiru in our atmosphere, which is a pretty shitty thing to tell people. This is an example of the Dave Dobbs object. It's an airplane moving away from you. Could be sunrise, could be sunset. Illuminated contrail makes it turn orange. And between him and Steve Olson, They got their panties in a bunch, and they claim that it is a planet. When we know damn well that that is literally impossible. Folks, if there was another planet like that zipping through the Earth's atmosphere and you were able to see it, you wouldn't see it for very long, because that would create massive tidal surges that would be between 300 and 500 feet high. So, the Dave Dobbs object is nothing more than a figment of Dave Dobbs' imagination. And if I have to go any further on that, I'll start getting pissed off, and I'll probably start calling him names. Because I think what they do, what these people do, telling you these, well, they're just pretty much blatant lies, and they confuse a lot of you. So, that's why people don't know what to discern, whether, is this guy telling the truth? And then they scare a lot of people too, because people think that there's a gigantic planet zipping through the Earth's upper atmosphere. Pfft, that's a complete lie. It could never happen. And if it did, pfft, like the old saying goes, man, you can bend over and kiss your ass goodbye. Then you could blame it on the Dave Dobbs object. But it's nothing more than an illuminated chemtrail or contrail from an airplane. That's it. Period. Let's see here. Anybody else? What's Dave Dalton say? Snort some triple antibiotics like Neosporin. Shit, I couldn't get anything up my nose right now. Like I said, I come in from outside after being outside for about 20 minutes. And it's like I've been out in a hay field cutting hay. And I don't own a farm, but I'm just saying, I can't breathe at all, period. We had one hell of a windstorm here last night. Woo! I thought the roof of my house was going to blow off. And this house is only 3 years old. And I'm thinking, damn, better be a warranty with this sumbitch, because if my roof blows off, woo! Look out. But we had a lot of damage here in the Pittsburgh area from that wind. A lot of trees were knocked down. Naturally, they fall on power lines. And then people are without power. They had it a lot worse down south. Alabama, Mississippi, those areas. They actually had tornado damage, tornadoes touching down in January. Wow. And yesterday, it was 72 degrees here in Pittsburgh. Yeah. It should be freezing, but that's the climate change for you. Now, that's all going to change. I was looking at some of the weather predictor models, and we're going to be undergoing a change by about the 22nd. We'll actually start to feel like we are in January here in the Pittsburgh area, but not for long. About 4 or 5 days of frigid temperatures, and then it's right back to spring. Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you, folks. Last summer, I planted a lot of new grass in and around my house. And I did it late, July, August, which is kind of a bad time to reseed or plant any grass. And yesterday, I was out there, just bugging around my yard and around my house. And I noticed all that new grass. It's growing. It's about like that long. So shit. By March, I'll have a whole bunch of new grass. I mean, even though my grass looks great now, I just wanted it thicker, so I planted a whole, I think, 120 pounds of grass seed in July and August. And here we are in January, and it's growing. How do you like that? Yeah. Yeah, I agree there. The Earth can be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Zoltan. Yeah, absolutely. That's my biggest fear. You know, the laws of probability, and there are true laws of probability. When I was in college, I actually did a report and a scientific experiment on probability. And hey, look, man, you know, the more you do something, you know, you're going to get this outcome or this outcome, this outcome or this outcome. And the laws of probability eventually are going to put the Earth in the wrong place at the wrong time. The only way you're going to know when the wrong time is if you got that crystal ball and you could shine it up and you could tell the future. Other than that, we'll probably never know to the very last minute. Yeah. What's this? What's Alyssa want me to do? Get some blue blocker sunglasses. 14 plus hours is bad for your eyes. Oh, I'm not outside for no 14 hours a day. I don't work outside. No. No, I work from home 14, 15 hours a day. My days of being out, I retired in 2016. Yeah, I'm done with that. I'm done with that working for the man. Now I'm the man. I work for myself. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be working outside with all of the additional solar radiation. No way. No way. But that is some people's career, and they got to do what they got to do. But you have to learn about what's happening, and you do have to learn how to protect yourself when you're out there. No doubt about it. My days of being a sun worshiper, yeah, that ended in 2005. But, yeah, folks, you know, share this video with some folks, and hopefully they'll start to understand what we're looking at as far as that model goes. You know, all of the years of research, all of the years of the actual observational evidence, noting it down in, I don't know how many notebooks I got now. I think I have one for every year, 16, 17, 18, 19. I think there's 4 there, if I'm not mistaken. But I was noting these dates down and then placing them into a calendar program on my computer. And then one day, like 2 years ago, it just hit me. And then I started examining all of these dates. And I'm like, wait a minute. Okay. We see it in the beginning. We see it in the end. And then based on the video and photographic evidence from the SDO, stereo, SETI, all of those satellites that have the cameras on them, you can see the angle of that object coming downward through the sun's corona, and then you could see it upward through the sun's corona, and those dates all coincided with coronal mass ejections right near the equatorial or the center of the sun on both sides as it passed by. So when you put 2 and 2 together, that means that the object is in a very eccentric and elliptical orbit. Here's the thing, folks. It's the same kind of orbit that NASA and the space agencies use to slingshot rockets and space probes to wherever they're going. The Parker space probe that they sent towards the sun, they had to use Venus to slingshot the Parker space probe towards the sun. The NASA astronauts going back to the Apollo missions in the late 60s, they had to use the moon to slingshot themselves back towards the Earth. It seems to be the same slingshot orbit that this object has. However, it is within the sun's gravitational hold, and it doesn't have any rockets or computers to break itself away. So it stays in that slingshot orbit, and it's going to stay that way forever. And there are plenty of stars, brown dwarfs, red dwarfs, exoplanets that have the same identical orbits. If you guys, let me jump out of here real quick. Damn, I can't breathe. If you guys go over to the Planet X News website, bookmark it, check it out every day. I upload a couple of really good articles that are relevant to what's going on in the world and what's happening with our buddy out there that's orbiting the sun. Here was an article that I investigated the other day. I thought it was absolutely intriguing. An iron and titanium found in the atmosphere of a super hot giant exoplanet. Now, they've been finding more and more and more and more and more of all these exoplanets. NASA has developed its own page within its website for exoplanets and the discovery of exoplanets. And this new one here, this Kelt, K-E-L-T 9b. Wow. You want to talk about a freaking monster. Woo! Man. Planet hotter than a star. So that means the planet, the exoplanet, is hotter than its host star at over 3,780 degrees Celsius. That's what they say. So again, very, very interesting article, but it helps to, it just helps to increase your knowledge of space, planetary dynamics, the dynamics of stars, the dynamics of these exoplanets. And for people that say, oh, you can't get something that close to the sun, you can't get something that close to a star, well, see, that's very incorrect. There are objects, exoplanets, that are very, very close to stars. I just researched one the other day that I was reading about, and it orbits its star every 11 days. 11 days. Now, its host star isn't as big as our sun, but that bad boy's moving pretty damn fast in its orbit around its host star. 11 days. So there you go. Oh, God, I can't breathe. Hey, if you guys want to watch a really good documentary, I put this out there. Now, usually I only have these documentaries on our Planet X News private website. I have documentaries that go up there a couple times a week that are not seen on YouTube, and they're not seen anywhere else. I was doing a lot of research on the giants and the Nephilim in North America. The uncovered truth. Ha-ha. Yeah. You never hear about that, do you? And what got me going on that here, where I live, about 25 miles south of the city of Pittsburgh, This is a very, 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 very old area as far as history goes. And I know maybe some of you have heard about these burial mounds. Well, we have these burial mounds all over the place around where I live in a couple of counties. And just recently, the summer before last, one of these mounds was right off of Interstate 70, and they had cut out and made an exit. And this big, gigantic mound, it was about probably 50 feet high. They decided that they were going to remove the mound, the construction company, and flatten it out for better visibility. Well, on the second day of excavation, they found that big, huge mound was a burial mound. All construction had to stop for 3 months because they brought a archaeologist in, and they started, digging and digging. They found it to be a very, very ancient Indian burial ground. And then the whole story. Go over here to your visual settings. Increase it to HD. And go up there and open it up. And you could watch it full screen. And then click it again. And there you go. You could watch a nice it out. It was pretty damn good. I'll include the link in the live chat because I'm gonna jump out of here. And you guys can check that out. Bookmark the website, or for $5 a month, you could join our private network. Because, folks, YouTube is still censoring very, very heavily. Facebook has destroyed just about every truther out there with their crap. So, in the time to come, I'm going to be using the private network and the private site a hell of a lot more, because now with some of the techniques I have, I could do pre-recorded videos, pre-recorded live streams, and I could upload them to my 2 terabyte drive, and I could even give people the ability to download it, share it, all the same as the boob tube. We just don't have the live stream capability, which I know a lot of you like. But when it comes to the information, that should be more important, And there is the ability to share it with other people. And that's all going to be available on the, it's already available now on the our private website. No censoring, none of that bullshit. I don't have to deal with it. And look, like I said, if the information's valuable to you, there is so much that goes on to the private network site every single day. $5 a month, if you can afford it, join us. The link's in the description box under all of our videos. And that's the way we're moving, folks. Not my fault. Blame it on the social media giants, man. They're ignorant. But anyways, I'm going to get back to my Sunday night playoff football game. And I'm going to try to clear my damn sinuses here. They're killing me. I have chemtrail sinus. Anyways, folks, share this video. Let everybody else see this animation. And we will go from there. I'm going to keep an eye on everything that's going on, because I think over this next 5 to 7 days, I think it's going to be pretty interesting. You can check a lot of things out on the Planet X News Facebook page. We have the private group Facebook page. You guys can follow me on Twitter if you want to. And all of those links right in the description box. Anyways, folks, happy Sunday fun day. You guys might hear from me tomorrow. Be safe in your travels out there. Watch your weather. Things are going to get kind of dicey over the course of this next 10 days. Really, really cold weather patterns. Arctic polar air is going to be dropping right down through the center part of the United States and making its way eastward. It's definitely going to make for some treacherous travel, so be safe. Take care, folks. I'll see you soon.